Good afternoon. This is the Town of Hempstead Board of Appeals, February 5th, 2 p.m. meeting. Mr. Chairman, do you have any opening remarks?
Since I don't see anyone who hasn't been here before or who has not been represented by someone who has been here before, I don't believe I have to procrastinate and go over the way we run the proceedings. Is that accurate, or would someone like to hear my spiel? Thank you very much. All right. Call a case.
Mr. Chairman, we do have an adjournment for this afternoon.
Okay.
Case 44524 through 44624 and 1384 of 24, Oceanside, 3359 Chicken Court, doing business as Popeyes. Special exception for proposed restaurant in existing building exceeding 1,850 square feet, whose vehicular access is limited to one or more two-lane roadways. Special exception to install a drive-through in conjunction with restaurant. Variance in off-street parking. Special exception to parking front yard setback on Henrietta Avenue with insufficient access at driveway and parking in clear sight triangle. Install one preview board not permitted in conjunction with drive-through restaurant. Install one menu board not permitted in conjunction with drive-through restaurant, also known as 3359 Long Beach Road.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, San Ward Braff Kashigano by Joshua Brookstein, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that there's going to be a community meeting on this matter. And my office has been in touch with members of the board staff, and I believe the board, we're respectfully seeking an adjournment. My understanding is the board is requesting May 28th.
What was the date, May?
Correct.
May 28th.
2 p.m.
That's correct.
Is there, you're representing whom? The applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone here representing any potential objectors, or have you been in conversation with counsel? My recollection is there was someone representing objectors.
Correct.
And
Lit Law Group.
Who is it?
The Lit Law Group.
You've been in contact with them? They're aware of this application, are they not?
Yeah, my office has been, Mr. Chairman, and that's my understanding.
Okay. May 28th, 2 p.m. Is that the only case we have on that day, that afternoon?
As of right now, yes.
Okay. Let's try to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
Just in case they decide to go forward.
When
Okay,
is the
counsel.
community meeting?
I don't have the date for that.
Okay.
You don't have it, or there isn't one yet?
There is.
I'm not personally aware of a date for the meeting yet.
Okay, counsel. Thank you for your appearance.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Okay. We'll be calling case 8825 Baldwin ZNR Daycare Incorporated. Special exception to maintain a daycare center in an existing building, waive off-street parking, and no provisions for pickup and drop-off of children, also known as 2434 Grand Avenue.
Good afternoon. Appearing for the applicant, Howard Avertine, 2116 Merrick Avenue, Merrick.
Good afternoon. It's Barry Nelson, 220 Pettit Avenue, Belmore, New York, 11710. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sean Mulryan Engineering, 1225 Franklin Avenue, Garden City, New York.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Go ahead, Mr. Abertine.
Good afternoon
have the
again.
floor.
This is the application of ZNR Daycare Incorporated for approvals required in order to operate a daycare center. The premises under application is located on the westerly side of Grand Avenue, 125 feet north of Merrick Road in Baldwin. It has a street address of 2434 Grand Avenue. It is also known as Section 54, Block 103, Lot 38, on the Nassau County land and tax map. The premises is developed with a 1- and 2-story brick and stucco building with 2 separate commercial spaces on the first floor and 4 residential apartments on the second-story area. The proposed daycare facility will operate in a space totaling 769.25 square feet of floor area. And it also will have an open area in the rear to be utilized for children's play. The required approvals are a special exception approval for the daycare use and a parking variance. 26 spaces are required for all of the uses in the building, with 0 provided. The building clearly predates the parking ordinance of the town of Hempstead. Out of the 26 spaces required, the proposed daycare use requires 5 spaces total. As I indicated, in the rear portion of the premises, there is a play area, and also to the rear of the premises are Baldwin municipal parking lots B3 and B4, which have always provided parking for the subject premises. The daycare facility will have 19 children maximum. The ages of the children will range from 24 months to 12 years, and there is a great need for daycare facilities within the Baldwin community, inasmuch as the Baldwin School District has pre-K availability for 4-year-olds on a lottery basis, and does not offer pre-K for 3-year-olds at all. So the community very much needs more daycare in the area.
Mr. Avertine,
Yes, sir.
you said that the proposed occupancy will not exceed 19 children?
Correct.
All right. This is a maintain, is it not?
Well, there was a permit issued to commence construction, but the actual operation never commenced. So some work was done, but the facility has not opened.
It hasn't.
It
Okay.
cannot open without the board's first approving this application.
That's why I asked.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. The proposed hours for the facility will be 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., with a drop-off taking place from 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and pickup taking place from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., and that's Monday through Friday.
No hours on Saturday or Sunday?
Correct. This time, unless the board has questions for me, I would introduce Barry Nelson to testify.
No one has any questions for Mr. Nelson either? No. Mr. Nelson, since the last time you were qualified by this board as a real estate expert, and you have been qualified by this board on any number of occasions, have any of your qualifications changed?
No, sir.
So we will therefore allow you to testify as a real estate expert in connection with this case.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I gave the board my name and address. I did submit previously photographs of the subject property and surrounding area. If the board would like, I have an original and a copy. I submit at this time. Thanks. The photographs would depict the subject property and the surrounding uses. Councilors introduced the application as far as the location and the use. The area is in transition now. It was formerly a downtown business district. It still is. There's been a lot of vacancies, and
Thank you.
currently there are some new construction in the area, which would include apartment building just to the west on the north side of Merrick Road. There are other proposed similar type developments along Grand Avenue and including at the southeast corner of Grand Avenue and Sunrise Highway for additional retail and apartments. Some of the uses in the area would include professional services, retail. There is some vacancy. There is a near Prospect Street within the subject block, just to the north, the Baldwin Fire Department. Merrick Road is to the south. Grand Avenue is north and south. At this location, we have to the rear, as council mentioned, the Baldwin, Town of Hempstead Baldwin Public Municipal Parking Field. Municipal parking field is traditionally the source of parking for downtown business districts and the like, including the subject property and the surrounding uses. What's before the board today is the special exception for the daycare and a waiver of off-street parking and a provision for pickup and drop-off. I believe for the latter two, you will hear from the traffic engineer as far as parking and the pickup and drop-off. The subject property is a fully improved parcel. Like most of the parcels in the area, municipal parking would be the source for the parking, off-street parking requirements. The property, the building itself, has access off of the front from Grand Avenue, as well as the rear on the municipal parking field. As far as the criteria for the special exception, based on my review of the area, I've worked on many other similar type of daycares, both in residential dwellings and in commercial locations like the subject property and on freestanding buildings. The criteria for the special exception would be under section 267D2, and it would address the character of the neighborhood, pattern of development, and under D2, under 2A, that the use will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of adjacent properties or of properties in adjacent use districts. The use will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of permitted uses or legally established uses in the district wherein the proposed use is to be located, or of permitted legally established uses in the adjacent districts. The safety, the health, the welfare, the comfort, the convenience, or the order of the town will not be adversely affected by the proposed use and its location, and the use will be in harmony with and promote the general purpose and intent of this ordinance. Interestingly, as I mentioned previously, there are some apartment buildings that will be constructed. There is vacancy in the area. This is a need for the community. The nearest residential would be one block west, one block southwest. It's a need for the community. It's for 19 children. In my opinion, the proposed will comply with the special exception. It's not a prohibited use that the applicant's proposing. It's a special use permit, and the applicant will comply with the requirements of the special use. It is in harmony with surrounding uses in the area, and it's not going to be detrimental to the downtown Baldwin locale.
I think it was very fortuitous that obviously the objectant voiced his or her opinion at the appropriate time in your dissertation.
Unless the board has questions for Mr. Nelson, I would call as my next witness Sean Mulryan to testify regarding the operation of the pickup and drop-off, as well as the parking variance.
Mr. Mulryan, since the last time you were qualified as a parking and traffic expert by this board, have any of your qualifications changed since you have been qualified on numerous occasions as a parking and traffic expert?
No, they have not.
Okay, so we'll allow you to testify in your capacity as an expert witness on traffic and parking.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So our office prepared a traffic and parking study that was submitted to the board previously. This application involves a small portion of a storefront that's located on the first floor of a building that is next to a separate retail store to the south and 2 apartment buildings or apartments above in the upstairs. If this use was not granted and it was a retail use, the subject site, and this portion of the subject site would require 4 parking spaces. As a daycare, the site requires 5 parking spaces. So we are asking for a minor increase in the overall number of parking spaces required by the overall building. And the building, as indicated previously, is located directly in front of a municipal parking lot.
Mr. Mulrine, can I just ask you, what was it before and what was the parking requirement then?
So as a retail use, I don't know what the, right now, it's shown, if you look at the front of the building, as the daycare, which never opened, but construction did start. So it's labeled and has signage for the daycare, but as a retail store, it would require 4 parking spaces.
I know, do you know Mr. Albertine? I'm just curious what it was before and what the requirement was to think about, it worked with that, might it work with this, you know?
My client is advising that it was vacant for approximately 7 to 8 years prior to now. So I don't think they're familiar with what it was
I can't
before
really,
that.
yeah. And, okay, go ahead.
So the daycare parking is generated specifically by the employees of the facility. There will be a maximum of 3 employees at the center at any given time. And the parking that is generated other than the employees is parents coming to drop off and pick up their children. Typically,
Mr. Mulrine, where is that going to take place?
there are 2 options for parents, either in the municipal parking lot and coming through the rear of the building, or on the street itself. There is 1-hour parking, and they can come through the front of the building.
Is it easily, is it set up in such a way that if I park in that lot behind there, that there's an easy path for me to get here?
Yes, there's
Like a back
there's a
door?
gate, well, there's a fence and a gate that leads to the, I think the photos depict that.
It leads to,
That leads to the rear of the premises where the play area is, and that's where the children will be escorted into the building and brought for pickup at the end of the day. And there's easy accessibility, vehicular accessibility to that portion of the property when dropping off and picking up. And it's, I would respectfully submit, safer than many other options in as much as it's in a parking field, much less vehicular activity than on a street or coming on an active driveway per se.
Mr. Albertine, could either you or one of the experts approach the bench to clarify what the photographs appear to show?
Certainly.
Okay? Could you please point out the entrance to this building in this photograph?
Yes. This is part of the building, but this would be the play area.
Okay.
That's this.
All right, well, this is the entrance.
No, this is for the other part of the building.
But where would the drop-offs occur?
What's that? Oh, it'll be right here in the,
you mean
Okay.
they're gonna walk through that
They're
gate?
going to walk through the gate?
walk through the gate.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So this
Did
parking
you get
lot-
that, Steph? Did you get all that?
I have one other
thank you.
quick question, Mr. Albertine.
Sure.
Just so I can follow along. You said that it's designed, and if I missed it, I apologize. It's designed and labeled, but it's not open yet. What was the holdup? Just coming here, or was there a
I think
financial
that, yeah,
delay?
there was a permit issued for the interior alteration, but then ultimately, I suppose, I don't know if it was if it was a vanilla box type application. Maybe the architect is here, might be able to address that. Oh, can you step up then?
Has she been sworn in?
No,
I think she's
neither one
sworn.
of
She's sworn.
I just want to have a better understanding before we go through the technicalities.
Arnold Montag, architect.
I think she wants to be sworn in, too.
Arnold Montag,
Oh, okay, I
architect. 350 Northern Boulevard, Great Neck, New York.
You're the architect, did you say?
Yes.
What he said.
Real simply put, Mrs. Mussolini, Zelina, she had hired a contractor who told her that permits were not required, she was only doing interior work, and they commenced with the work. Then it became an issue when she contacted me asking to get a child care permit. I told her as an architect, she needed to go through the whole process and obtain a variance case, a board case, and then obtain a permit. So whatever work was completed, we're filing to maintain.
Did you
Wow.
get a stop work order on this?
No.
No.
Wow, and someone who actually stopped working.
So she
without
stopped, she
stop work.
listened,
Voluntarily.
and I would say you got a great person here who's just trying to get in there and start her business.
And do you already have the state licensing stuff done, or does it require
It's a
this?
catch-22 back and forth with the license.
The
Can
state
you-
won't issue the license unless and until the necessary local municipal approvals are obtained.
And do you need county also if you're gonna give them food or something? Is there county?
No, the child care is here through the county.
Well, come on, come
No, no, state.
on. You guys,
Come up, stay.
Someone
you
let
know,
her sit, please.
She was sworn.
please give your name and address for the record.
Zelina Morcelina, that's Z-E-L-E-E, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M-U-S-S-A-L-E-E-N, 894 in Court, Baldwin, New York, 11510. So actually, when I leased this building 2 years ago, I actually came here to find out about, before I actually leased the building, I came to this building to ask if it's okay for me to open up or conduct a daycare at that location. So I was given a slip, and they said, yes, I can open a daycare there because it's a business zone. So I went along and signed the lease for 5 years. And then I came back again and I asked, and at that time I received a yellow slip stating that it's okay because it's a business zone. But when I proceeded to do the application, the state require the zone to be educational school. So that's the process. I've been waiting and go around for 2 years now. And that's when I realized I had to contact an architect. And then after that, Mr. Howard, to help me to get the zone to be a business educational school zone.
Wait, the zone or the zoning?
The
The
zoning.
zoning, the
The
zoning,
zoning.
the zoning.
Yes.
Montague Architects. I'll just summarize. Unfortunately, when she went to the counter, they just looked it up. They said, oh, you're a B zone, a business X, whatever, and said, oh. And then she asked somebody else, can you ask an examiner, are you allowed a daycare? They said, of course. But no one gave her the rest of the story. And, I see this all the time, not only in Hempstead, all over different villages in the city. It's just,
The rest of the story.
You only get an answer to the question.
The rest of the story being, can you restate what she said? What's the rest of the story?
So she signed the lease. Unfortunately, she had signed the lease thinking it was okay for the child care, not knowing about the variance portion. Hired the contractor again, misguided. He told her, oh, don't worry, we're not adding on to the building. I could start the work. Then when I came along, she had some questions. I said, hey, you're going to need a zoning attorney. We're going to need to draw up plans. We're going to go to the landlord. It became right where we are today.
Right, but she
she
had
definitely went in misguided, unfortunately.
Yeah, but she had indicated, and I realized there was maybe confusion as to a educational zone versus.
Yeah, she
what
doesn't mean the
approval-
zoning. She just
Wait,
means
She
the.
can't take us both down.
use.
But I just want to ask you, but if we were to grant this application, we're just granting her the right to operate this business.
Correct.
Is that adequate? Because we don't necessarily
Correct,
characterize
correct.
it as an educational.
Right. It's
Okay.
not about changing the zoning. It's just.
I understand, but I just meant,
Yep.
even our
I'm
grant.
glad you're clarifying.
We don't have a grant of that style.
Correct, and I think that Ms. Mussolini is not really versed in land use type issues.
Yeah, well, I'm not even versed in all this stuff.
So the point being, I think she was advised by the state licensing authorities for a daycare use that you need whatever the local municipal approvals
Got it.
are to operate your facility. and the jargon can be confusing, but we are here for, the approvals that we hope to obtain here will be sufficient to her to complete her licensing process.
Have you been paying the rent now then for 2 years?
Yes, I am.
Nightmare, I've been trying to help her.
Okay. I'm
Now,
sorry,
I think
that's
there's
unfortunate.
a question also, Mrs. D'Amato, you had. Is there any county, Nassau County approval you need to operate the daycare, or is it just New York State?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think
The architect should be able to answer that
I need
question.
it for the New York State licensing.
Okay, well,
All right,
let's
you'll
put it
figure it
this
out.
way. Whatever other approvals are required, they will be obtained to make sure that this is a fully legal, authorized facility when it does commence operation.
And if we were to approve this, if you don't mind me asking, how long would it take, do you estimate, to actually open your doors? I know there's a huge need for daycare in a lot of these communities.
I had spoke to several team members from the child care services, so they're aware of my situation. So hopefully, I will say tops 2 months.
And that would
This,
be,
I have a question for the architect. Are you aware of any additional approvals this young lady would need in order to open the daycare from the county or otherwise?
I just believe it's New York State, that's to my knowledge. I'm not aware of any separate Nassau County approval, but we'll look into that. But certainly the state is the primary, if not exclusive one, and they have indicated that until this board approves what is necessary, they will hold her application in abeyance.
and if we were to approve it, you feel like that approval from the state would be within that 2-month? That would be a part of what you were estimating, taking the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Becky?
Still need building department approval, so that's, once we get through the board, I was hoping to get her some type of expedite if possible. But she's got to get through this board first, and then back to the plan examiner for permit approval.
How long, but Ms. First, how long, if, once they receive our approval, if we were to approve it, how long does it customarily take for her to actually get the permit in her hand so she can get it to the state? Between what?
So Mr. Narabecki is currently assigned to that application, so
What does it usually take, do you know?
I can't answer to Mr. Narabecki's case. I can answer to my case.
Depends on his case.
So
Slow.
give me yours, just so I can understand the,
Currently, for a commercial project, I'm running about a month to 2 months.
once you, if you get, so you've already reviewed it, you've made your
We
rejection.
don't do complete code review prior to a BZA approval. So he still has to go through state code review. So apparently, after discussing with Mr. Narabecki, his current review on the project, there's alterations that have to be made to the building in terms of the bathrooms and so forth. So those have to be obviously changed on the plan and so forth. So depending upon,
And you have to have, just getting approved by this board, if we were to approve it, that approval that says, yes, you're, zoning-wise, you're gonna be able to conduct that business, that isn't enough to get the state going on its stuff. You also need, you know,
I believe once we could show that the zoning works, that I'll be able to write an
I would like
expedite
to- I
letter
would
to the
hope so.
state and say that we're just waiting just to follow through on, you know, the code-related items, the alteration permit, but
I
that
just-
zoning, it's permitted.
usually with that department in New York State, they usually file for their building permits first and then obtain their license. So it's like getting a letter of good standing first, and then the state will issue their license. So
do the
usually,
processing.
yeah, it's just that they went opposite, so that's what
I
the
mean, it's
issue.
so unfortunate that you've had to pay rent for 2 years.
I know this question is not being asked, but I actually moved here a year ago for the purposes of being here close to daycare. So I'm actually a resident of Baldwin.
Wait, say that again, I'm sorry.
I actually moved to Baldwin because of the daycare, unknowingly that this would have happened. So I'm actually a resident of the Baldwin area.
Okay. All right, sorry I delayed things, I just want to get a better understanding of it.
Mr. Avertine?
That completes our case unless the board has any additional questions.
Becky, could you approach, please?
And Mr. Avertine, while they're talking, the reference to the alternative, that's okay. The reference to the alternative drop-off being on the street, because there was, did you say there was parking that someone could use, it was empty, or is there actually like a
It's
non-parking?
on-street.
There's on-street
park.
metered parking on Grand
No,
Ave.
it's not metered.
Oh,
It's
I'm
just,
sorry.
just 1 hour.
On-street
there's no-
1-hour parking on
There's
Grand.
no, like, no parking
No, there's no
section?
loading or unloading zone. It's just regular on-street parking.
And it is viable because if drop-off is between 7 and 9, especially for the early arrivers, there's probably going to be street-side parking at that hour. However, we would anticipate the primary drop-off and pickup, if not the exclusive, to be in the rear, which is going to be easier, I believe, for caregivers who are picking up and dropping off children, and from a safety perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that drop-off on Grand is not worth the
Understood, that's, the rear does make the most sense.
There's also a recently constructed apartment building that's going to be on the opposite side of the parking lot.
Also, what?
A recently finished construction of an apartment building directly across the parking lot. So someone living in that building can walk directly across the parking lot into the rear of the building and then get their car.
It's across the front, across the Grand.
Across the parking lot, directly across the parking lot, facing on Merrick.
Okay, and how does that pertain to this?
I think
Someone
what-
in that apartment building had a child that needed daycare.
Oh, for daycare.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
In other words, yes, they would walk from the apartment building to the daycare with their child and then get in their
Yeah.
car and leave.
I didn't realize he was, I was just. And
Just,
that-
are you
Go ahead,
finished?
Mr. No, go
No,
ahead.
go right ahead,
I'm done.
because you'll only interrupt me anyway. This is a question for the architect. My understanding is that in the ordinary course of events, the applicant would first go to the state before coming to the town.
First going to the state, no, she needs the.
No. In the application process, one does what? Goes to the state first, or comes to the building department first, and then lays out their plan and finds out whether or not the zone permits the use? Or do they first go to the state and say, look, I'd like to open a daycare, and the state then says, okay, we need A, B, C, and D, one of the items being a certificate of occupancy. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so she did not come, or maybe she did come.
Well, she did, that's what I'm saying, like, I know my clients
She
over
came
the
to the
years who
board, but went
knows
in
and-
reverse.
Right, she came here and
Yeah.
unfortunately was
And
given.
what
incorrect
did she ask downstairs? Whether or not she
Incomplete.
could open it at this location?
Right, she came down here and said, before I sign the lease to the landlord, I need to check with the town of Hempstead that it's legal for me to have the daycare
In what? In that building or in that zone?
in that
Building.
zone.
In the zone?
In the zone.
Okay,
And they
not
looked up and
necessarily
said,
in
"It's
the
a
building.
business zone, you are
Okay,
allowed to
so-
have it."
So
she
by way
signed
of,
the lease,
right,
then
by way of
hired the-
clarification, she was not told that she could open a daycare center in that building by anybody in this organization. She was told that in the zone it's permissible. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you ask about the building or the zone?
She said that was at the building department. She was asking at the counter, she got some.
No, nobody at the counter, it's nobody at the counter.
I would just say this, if I may. No one's attempting to ascribe any sort of, fault on anyone in the town for this. Unfortunately, like I said before, my client is someone who provides daycare services and really is not versed in this
Get
types
it.
of things. So in speaking with someone, maybe she misinterpreted what was said. It's not, unfortunately, at this point, it's turned out to be a problem for her, the way things have worked out. But she's here doing the right thing and trying to fix what was done improperly. for whatever the reason.
We understand that. Okay? Any questions, any other questions from the board, since Mrs. D'Amato implied that she had some?
No. Are there?
No? There's nobody in
Mr. Abertine,
opposition.
you submitted your hours of application,
No.
operation, and where the pickup and drop-off would be?
No.
Yeah, I
Would
did
not-
before. You want me
He
to go
said
through it
that
again?
concludes there.
It would not be on Grand Avenue?
We can preclude it from being on Grand Avenue, make it exclusively in the
Because
rear,
they
yes.
would more than likely have to double park on Grand Avenue, causing that.
Well, no, certainly, that's not safe, number one.
Right.
Number two, I think what Mr. Mulryan was suggesting was, depending on the time, there is legal parking along Grand for 1 hour, that someone could pull up the curbside and do that, but our preference is that, and I believe it is the applicant's intention to require caregivers to do the drop-off and pick up in the rear.
And would the children be escorted into the building, or would the parents?
Step up, you have to step up. Wait,
I'm sorry, I can't.
sit down.
Someone will be there to escort them into the building.
So you'll have a staff member outside and wait for the children to come in so that they walk in the building?
Yes, and it's okay for the parents to accompany them as well, but within the drop-off and pick-up time, someone will be out there.
Okay. Good, thank you. And good luck.
That concludes your case, Mr. Abbott?
It does, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? If not, we're going to close the hearing.
I move the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Everyone who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's rendered. Thank you all for coming, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I believe that concludes the committee calendar. So we're going to take a short break, 10 minutes. We'll be back and do decisions if they are deemed to be appropriate.
I can go home and take a nap. that this case be 8825 and Baldwin, that it be, I'm sorry, Sequent. I move that that the environmental secret resolution be adopted, neg deck, pursuant to the testimony and the documents that are on file.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. with
Secondly,
respect to the case-
I move that case 88, ZNR Daycare Incorporated, that we grant this with the required conditions in operating a daycare center, state approval, et cetera.
Conditions that were offered.
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. All right, cases 445, 446, and 1384, 2024 have been adjourned to May 28th, 2025 at 2 p.m. What else do we have?
I have a administrative item. So Paul from the building department came down.
Martha Milano?
Yes, he has a case that he's reviewing right now of 1841 Oak Street in Westbury. It came to us a few years ago from mother-daughter. In the mother-daughter conditions, it says no living space in the basement. While he was reviewing the file, he noticed a room in the basement, and then asked for photos. And in the one section of photos, sorry, there's a lot of them. In the one room in the basement, they tried not to, but the mirror caught it, there's the bed.
Oh, my God.
And on top of that, the plans that they're submitting now for their expansion shows that room as a playroom. And then it shows they're going to dig and put another room off into the basement and have it listed as a computer room.
You're right. It's gonna be an anything.
No bathroom down there?
So his question is, do we want to see this again? Because they're in violation of
Pull the grant.
yeah, they're in violation of the conditions.
Pull it. Well,
Do we need a vote on that?
Yeah, I would. I make a motion that whatever case it is, 24.
763-23.
Chairman, we have a case number 763 of 2022, Mansour and, can't pronounce the last name, it's spelled Quraisshi. It's in Westbury,
1841 Oak Street.
1841 Oak Street. They have, it's been brought to the attention of the plan examiner that there is basement living, finished basement with an apartment in the basement, and they're in violation of our grant. I would make a motion that we revoke the grant.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well done. Can I see that?
Now, what do we do?
I'm into
We
electrical.
notify them that they're in.
So that
revoking the
is,
grant?
so I assume I gotta talk to Gail, how she proceeds with that. I assume that we send them a letter saying that the grant has been revoked.
Yeah,
And then they
let's
have
just
to-
send them a notice of decision, it's revoked. Let the building department
Hmm?
play games. Wow, this is
What
nice.
was the original grant for?
Mother-daughter.
Refrigerators down there? It's-
There's a refrigerator down there, there's a, what they call a bar, which is, in those or in those?
Wow.
This is the bar, which is refrigerator. There's, coffee machine.
How much?
there's a sink.
How much is the rent?
They submitted these?
Okay, so we're gonna
Paul asked
hold
for interior
39.
photos of the basement.
Okay, and now this,
I'll follow up with Becky on that one.
200.
I love his outfit. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adjourn, that we close the meeting.
Seconds? Second. All in favor?
Aye.